Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Want to thank you for joining us this morning for our morning FEBE, and it's sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts from across the way. So we always like to give thanks for them being such a great partner. And this morning we have quite a treat. We have Kurt here that's going to be talking to us, the business of balancing music and life. So Kurt, I'm just going to turn things over to you. I like the attire. It's very tropical, very fun. So without further ado, thank you.
All you guys, hey, thanks for taking a few minutes, man. You're not going to learn anything from me to make a whole bunch of money. I've learned a lot from you guys, and I just want to share with you, I've had a pretty interesting life, and just kind of want to share with you some of my experience. How's it going, buddy? And first of all, it's not beer, but there's good ships, and there's wood ships, and the ships that sail the sea. But the best ships are friendships. Hope ours will always be, man. And that's something that's been very important to me. Come on in. Did you guys bring a note? Just like high school. Girls always had notes. You ever notice that? I had a friend that she had a stack of notes, and her mom worked, so her mom was never home, but she had her mom's signature down. I don't think she ever went her whole senior year. But the notes didn't work for me. My mom was home. Anyways, what I wanted to share with you guys is I've played music since I was in the 6th grade. My brother is older. My family has a funeral business, 6 generations. But very musical. My family, just going back to my great-grandma, played in the silent movies. Just all into classical, into big band. I just heard it growing up. It was just throughout the house. When Dad came home from the funeral home, Dad came home. Dad was my biggest mentor. He'd switch off that switch. I never knew what went on at work because Dad came home, put the music on. It was family time, man. Dad was a master of that. I, to this day, am trying to attain that status because to me that was the most important thing I learned from my father was how to enjoy life, you know. I was, school, man, going back, like I said, 6th grade, but I mean, I think of all this stuff. School was like prison to me as I got older because I knew what I wanted to do. I'm in Shelby, Ohio. I'm sitting in class, and I remember 10th grade, the English teacher came out and said, underline the noun once, underline the verb twice. And I said, you gotta be shitting me. I said, you kidding me? I said, this is like, been doing this for 3 years. Duh. I mean, I was so bored out of my mind. There were some great teachers. I had some great teachers. But I knew what I wanted to do in Shelby, Ohio. Other than my family, my music teacher, and band, and my brother, and surrounded by musicians, there wasn't anybody in Shelby, Ohio that could tell me, how do you do this? How do you get out of Shelby, Ohio? I don't want to go to college. I want to play music. I mean, I grew up, I watched the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and that was it for me. I knew at a very young age, that's what I want to do. It was not even a question, right? You can tell it's a passion for me. It just happened. I didn't have to think about it. I think everybody has that within them. I really do, sincerely. Whether it's your business or something, whether you like cars, whether you like sewing, there's something in your life, swimming, it doesn't matter. There's something that just makes time stop, and you don't have to think whether or not it makes sense. It just is. It's just life, So I was blessed to have that. I think the biggest inspiration for me was death. Growing up around the funeral business, at a very young age, I realized we just all die, and it sucks. I just lost one of my precious dogs last night. I've lost my father, I've lost one of my sisters. So I've experienced it in my family, but I've seen it in the community where sitting around the supper table, we knew everybody in town. So at a very young age, I just knew that no matter what you do, and no matter how hard you try, or how much money you make, and how smart you are, you're going to die, man. And that at a very young age made me think, and that's, I think, why my dad had that switch. He knew the importance of life, of every minute, man, and every second. Enjoy it, man, because we saw so many times those people at the very end. If you've never experienced it, somebody that's on the way out, and you've heard this, I'm sure, read about it, They're not talking about how much money they made. They're talking about the relationships, the people. I saw my dad do it. I was lucky enough to have closure with my dad, died of cancer. He sat in the bed a day before he died. And I've never, if there's a God, that was it. He let it all out. He talked about things in his life that I never heard Dad talk about. I mean, little things. Man, when I was painting that sign, and then the detail, and then he went around to every kid, everybody in that room, and just addressed every one of them with such clarity that it blew my mind. I walked out of there, and I looked at Mom and said, Dad's done. He's done. It was so obvious to me that but the things he talked about had nothing to do with money or security or it was just, anyways, you can kind of see where I'm coming from, okay? That was always been important to me. A guy like Ben Franklin, man, that's what I liked about school, guys like that. You'd study about schools like that, and you see these old pictures of these guys in black and white. But you really read about them, and self-taught, man, 2nd grade or something. Didn't even patent the stove or the lightning rod because he thought anything that would help society, he didn't want to make money off of it. I mean, how cool is that? It has nothing to do with money. It was just pure, So music was just a natural fit for me, and when I got into music, like I said, I didn't know anything about business other than growing up in a family that was self-employed. So I saw that. I saw the stripes of, you're what you are. You make what you are, and you guys are all entrepreneurs, you know how that works. You got to fill your calendar. It's like, so you do have to deal with that. And when I got out into the real world, I was a young guy. I was always the young guy in the band. I was, 10 years younger than all the guys I played with. So these guys were old. They had beards, So they had some experience, some life experience. So we'd be out playing and working. And I worked hard, man. I traveled all over the country for 20 years. And we used to play hotels out of high school, 18 years old. Back in the day, you could play Holiday Inns. Every town had a hotel, and they all had music 6 nights a week, and they had happy hours. So you could buy a beer and eat, because they'd give you shrimp, cheese, vegetables. So we'd go down for happy hour. We'd eat, so there was my buck to eat. I learned to live on minimal. That's what I learned about it, striving like that, struggling like that. It wasn't how much money you made. It's how much money you didn't spend, And none of that mattered to me as long as I could do what I wanted to do. So if I did what I wanted to do, I was going to be good at it because I loved it. So I studied. I studied on my own with percussionists. I was always a drummer, percussionist, singer. Any town I'd went to, like I said, when I grew up in Shelby, a drum instructor was from Ohio State. I learned a lot from Steve Peebles. He showed me a lot I learned the rudiments of instruments, right? But I also learned from my family just the melodic content and the history of music. Like I said, classical, blues, big band, you name it. So I just heard it all my life. So in Shelby, people would say, hey, did you hear this guy down the street? Did you hear that guy from Mansfield? You heard that drummer over there? And I'm thinking, screw those guys. I'm Buddy Rich, man. I'm looking at the cats that are, those are the guys I want to emulate. The guys that are the best. But I couldn't do that. I couldn't go study with Buddy Rich. I couldn't go, So I had to do it on my own, like Ben Franklin. I had to do it on my own. I had to sit and just woodshed and sit there with no really idea of, if I do this, I'm going to make it. Because nobody told me how to make it. Nobody sat down. Everybody said, go to college, go to college, go to college. And do what? I didn't want to be a teacher. Now, believe me, I would love to go into Berkeley. I was this close to going to Berkeley, and because what you learn is fantastic, and who knows where that would have led me. But my passion was, I just was so driven to do what I wanted to do, which I think all of you are when you do something you want to do. That's why you're probably, and maybe some of you are, but that's probably why you're not working for somebody else. I just am no longer working for the insurance company I was working for. I lost a salary. I lost all that stuff. And I've never been so excited in my life because I'm getting back to doing what I'm supposed to be doing, this isn't a job to me. This is just, it's exciting. I don't do this. Lisa asked me to do this, and I said, I don't do this, but I think I can share just some things with you that I've learned, and you can apply it to any business. Business is business. You got to make money to eat. You got to make money to whatever. If you want to have a house to rent, put kids through school, all that. I've met so many people that were very famous, that had tons of money, that weren't happy. You hear it. You see it all the time. You see a guy like Billy Joel, these guys that lose everything. Robin Williams killed himself. I mean, these people that you think they've got everything, but what is everything, And it comes down to just you as a person, everything you learn, man, everything you learn in school, from your teachers, from your mom, from your dad, if you went to church, if you went to, all that stuff is part of who you are. So when you go to work sometimes, and especially when you're working for somebody else, sometimes, and a lot of it, I've seen it so many times, the whole reason you do it is to make money. And if that's your end game, it's just never worked for me. I can't, because I get into these situations where I don't agree with their morals, I don't agree with their end game, I maybe don't agree with their product, I don't agree with the way they treat their employees, because that's my core values that I got growing up from my family. It's important to me, man. It's just, I think it'll come back tenfold. I'm still doing this. I've been doing it since I was in the 7th grade. I played every weekend, made money professionally all the way through high school, and I've never stopped. I'm 60, so I can't even do the math. But I've done this for a long time, and I'm not a young man. So it's not like young kids are going to come out to see me, although I do play for young kids. But so you have to reinvent yourself all the way along the way. In longevity, I think that comes from being able to adapt, just like an animal, like an alligator that's lived all those years, You have to kind of roll with the punches. I had a plan. My vision was to get out and travel and get discovered, because we didn't have the internet, right? I go back to, we recorded on tape. And anybody not know what this is? Vinyl? I remember my kids, I first showed them that, they thought it was a Frisbee when I took it, But, God, are you late, man? I'm telling you what, these... Okay, thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it. Brett. So anyways, and you guys, stop me any time. I'm rambling. I don't do this, so I'm serious. You got something you want to interject with, just reel it out, man. Because this is about, if I can share anything that means anything to you guys. So anyways, I get out there. I leave Shelby. My graduation was at home. We didn't used to have these big graduation parties that are like weddings now. I mean, my son just graduated. My God, you guys, come on. You got to spend $5,000 to have my son just went to 4 graduation parties yesterday. It's a whole nother world. So we went, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, a few people were there, throw you a few bucks. And dad, I had a 2-wheel cart, push cart, and some luggage, I swear to God. That's what dad got me. And I was thrilled about it. Same thing? So I was thinking, cool, man. I got luggage now, the 2-wheel cart. But Dad knew I was playing in bands, so I left and we went on tour. We played all over, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and played the hotels. We could play 6 nights a week. They put you up in a room. They usually fed you. It was awesome. Man, you played every night. So I learned how to really play by getting paid. It was an apprenticeship, which I think is missing so much in this world. It frustrates me to see when people come into a source of employment and they're not really trained. They're monitored. They, let's see the numbers, let's see whatever it is you're doing. You're monitored. There's so much pressure sometimes, and it's negative. It's just, I don't believe in negative reinforcement. And I see it so much in our society. I see it in education, and I'm not slamming on any college. My soon-to-be ex-wife has been a teacher. I've been around education a lot. I believe me, I'm not speaking from, there's a lot of great things about education. And just like anything else, there's a lot of good teachers, a lot of bad teachers. It's just like any profession, But I think what you can pull away, what I pull away mostly from teachers is when they connected with me. When they connected with me, even if it's just for a second, but connect with me. Don't just get up there and read. My favorite history teacher, she'd go off on a tangent. I mean, we'd be reading a chapter. Next thing I know, I'm hearing about how George Washington was doing something out in the barn, and she got me, you know. I just thought, whoa, that's what I want to know. These guys really lived. They really lived, man. They were like people like us. They lived in color. It wasn't black and white and this stoic stuff. They were people, man. So to me, life is about people. And a friend of mine just went skiing. He owns a restaurant. He closes down for a month every year, and then he'll go skiing in the Alps or something. Jim just, and so I was talking to him a couple days ago. I said, Jim, how was Italy, man? He said, Kurt, it's just so different, you know. He goes, you go skiing over there, and he says, I'm skiing. He goes, these people, it's not skiing, this is part of their life. And he said, they spend so much time on life. Work's kind of something you got to do. Life's right there. We're very driven in this country. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but people get stressed out. There's a lot of stress in this country. There's a lot of drugs. People doing drugs, they go to get anxiety pills. They have every disorder there is. There's a title for everything now. To me, a lot of it is you can't help, but a lot of it's because of our society and the way we're raised. Mom and dad aren't home half the time. I drove school bus for 11 years, so I know this. I used to drop kids off, and they didn't want to go home. Little kids. Because there's no family like we. How many of you went home and mom was there, or somebody was home? There was just, you could run out in the neighborhood, and it was just, we grew up in a cool place. It still happens, it still exists, but not as much. So I've just always put a huge, huge monitor up there for life, for myself. And I found that when you try to balance, that's the thing, we get so involved in our businesses, you know, if any of you have kids or a relationship, anything. Once you're done with work, you know, then what? I used to have people say, you know, they see you on stage and think, oh my God, you got the life of Riley, man. I said, you have no clue what it took for me to get up there for those 3 hours. I said, you have no idea how many hotels I've slept in, and how many holidays I've missed, and how I get to see my family, my parents, twice a year. I missed out on so much of that life. I got to a point where we were playing in Kansas City, and I walked out of the hotel room, and I looked at the city, and I didn't know where it was. I didn't know what city I was in. And as much as I loved music, I thought, this has to stop. This has to stop, you know. So I reinvented myself. I've always been around people. I've always paid attention, been real observant of everybody. Like I said, I'm more than your business. I'm almost more interested in what you as a person. Because I want to learn why, not so much what you do, but what got you there, man? You know, what is it about, how'd you end up there? What's your story, man? Where'd you come from? You know, who'd you learn from? What did you, because I've learned so much from people like you and everybody I've met. And those connections, networking, that's how the networking thing happens. It's not just to do it for the sake of doing it, just doing it because it's fun. It's fun to know what other people do. You get outside of yourself, you know. And I've always ran into people that, by doing that said, hey, Kurt, I need a drummer, man. This guy here, Melvin, had a huge deal. This was in Minneapolis. He had a huge deal on MCA Records. This is when Prince was big out there, right? He had the biggest deal since Prince, right after Prince came out on MCA. I didn't know Melvin, our guitar player at the time. We were traveling around with my band. We were called Falconetti, and we had our own music. And we were traveling around, and we were doing quite well. And it was my band. I did everything. I booked the band. I arranged the travel. I paid the guys. I mean, I did everything, you know. So Melvin saw me at some club. He just pulled me aside and said, hey, I got a record deal, and really like you to come audition for drums, you know, when it gets to that point. The album's already recorded. Actually, Joe Vitale played on that, who's from Ohio. Joe plays the James Gang, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Joe's one of my favorite drummers. I mean, I think I got to go play Joe's stuff, huh? So anyway, but at the time, you know, you hear stuff like that all the time, and you just kind of, bank it off to the side. And I thought, yeah, sure, buddy, yeah. A year later, he calls me. And this is my band. I'm getting ready to move to Florida with the whole band. He calls me up to auditions, so I sneak off away from my business, basically, and go up there. Long story short, I got the job. I told my band that I'm quitting, which was hard. These were like brothers. I mean, this was something we went through the war together for many years, and that was the hardest thing I ever did in my life, as far as business, is actually saying, you know, I wasn't a real selfish person, and I had to be selfish. I had to say, you know, what's really best for me? And that's tough, because, you know, that's the thing, that balance of life and stuff. The thing I went through with the band with business, you go through the same thing with your life away from business. Like I said, whether it's a wife, a husband, a relationship, dogs, it doesn't matter. Family, that balance, you gotta feel good when you're not at work to feel good while you're at work. That is so hard to do for a lot of, it just doesn't happen all the time, man, because your mind doesn't shut down. If you're like me, you're always thinking about, well, I got that appointment, you know, I got to do this, I got to do that. There's always something you got to do. We're so driven. And I just don't think there was ever enough emphasis put on, it's okay to be driven, but man, slow down, take care of yourself. Those old sayings, what is it? Stop and smell the, what is it? Coffee, roses? Yeah. Those old sayings are around there for a reason, you know. Because stress is not a good thing. And I see it so much in our society now. So I've just found that all those things I did would lead me to something. Even though that was very stressful, I knew that, you know what, if I'm going to do this, this is my shot. I've got to go. So I packed up everything, man. I sat down with the band, told them, guys, we're not moving to Florida. I'm leaving. And it was they were cool, you know. They were very good guys, you know. But that was the hardest thing I ever did. But the guys that really, really got successful that I know, like Yanni, there's a guy that's working with Peter Frampton right now, Steve Miller Band. I mean, some of the guys I know that I used to work with, they gave up a lot more than me. They don't have kids. They just, you know, and they were always, I don't want to say they were cutthroat. What I did with my band that one time, they did their whole career. They just get out of my way. I don't care who's behind me. Get out of my way, because I'm going here. I couldn't do it just because where I came from, that I always was so concerned about everybody else. It took me a long time to get to that point where I could really think about what's really best for me. I know it's going to hurt some other people, but just do it. I was in that band mentality. So when I went up to play for Melvin, for the first time in my life, I'd been on the road all that time, right? And I was getting older. I said I missed my family. I'd been in relationships, you know, and I started to really miss that because I grew up a strong family. But how in the hell can I play music and still get this other side of my life together, right? That life part, man, that life part, that part that really you talk about when you're going to die, that part, you know? And so when I went to play for Melvin, so we got this big record deal. We do the MTV stuff. We do all this stuff. We're on the radio. I'm thinking, wow, this is it, man. Well, we weren't touring at that time, so a lot of downtime. So we got all that stuff, but the manager, it just wasn't happening. There's a lot of waiting. So you're sitting around. Well, the guys in the band were cool. They had been doing this a long time. They had been living in Minneapolis for all this time. They did studio work. They were in a children's band, which I ended up doing, and I'm still doing to this day. They did jobs. They did jobbing gigs where they just go out and play. Somebody hire a drummer to come out and play. You have to play any type of music. You just show up. And they play, what are we playing? Okay. I'd never done that. I'd always been in rehearsed things. So that was new to me, but they had houses and kids and wives, and we're playing music and not traveling and sleeping in hotels all the time. And I'm going, why didn't I know this when I grew up in Shelby, Ohio, when I was 18? Nobody was there to tell me. Nobody knew. There's no path in this business. In a lot of businesses, you know, there's no certain path to get where you want to be. It really comes, you know, your education. It's different in every field, but it's really how you put it all together. There's no, so you can be the same business. You could have 5 different people in the same business, and they're all going to have different results. But I really feel strongly a lot of it comes from what you observe from every day in every bit of your life and how you apply it to what you do. And I really think if you're good to people, that's the biggest thing. If you're good to people and you're good at what you do and you stay at it, you're going to get some result. You just are. What I've got out of this is longevity. I can't believe I'm still doing this. And a lot of it's because I reinvented myself. I did some things I didn't want to do. I left my band. I went up there and played for Melvin. All of a sudden, I'm a drummer for a guy. But I thought, I made it, This is it. I was doing all this cool stuff, meeting all these people. The guy that signed Melvin James, they were called A&R guys, right? Artist representatives. So these guys come around and they see somebody out somewhere and they hear about him. I want to sign these guys to the label. Well, he signed Melvin to MCA. That guy got fired. So right when our album's in the tank, ready to go, we're ready to tour. We were supposed to tour at the Rolling Stones. It was like that big. And that guy got canned. So all of a sudden, the guy at the record label that's jumping for Melvin, he's gone. All the other guys at the record label, they got all their albums from all their people they're working with. They don't give a crap about Melvin. So all of a sudden, we're sitting around. We're ready to go. I said, Melvin, the checks stopped coming. See, they put you on a retainer so you get money to keep you. So all of a sudden, the checks stopped coming. I said, Mel, what's going on? He says, Kurt, I've been dropped. This is very typical in this business. So I'd never been through that. When I was doing my own thing, they couldn't drop me. Only I could drop me. It's like any other business. That's what's so cool about being an entrepreneur. You're your boss. You're the one that can fire yourself. That's the beauty of it. And that's going to make you work because you don't want to lose your career. But I had never been in that position. I had somebody else, just like in the corporate world, somebody else had their thumb on me. All of a sudden, I put 2 years of my life into this project for Melvin, and they said, you're done. I'm thinking, okay, well, I left my band. I moved. I've done everything. Now, here's the thing. I had made a lot of connections. I'd met a lot of people from Melvin. So the next thing I know, I'm with Dugan. He's on Polygram. Dugan when Yanni moved from Greece, he moved in with Dugan's family in Minneapolis, and they had a band called Chameleon. And so all those guys, and then that was about that time when Yanni went on to be Yanni, and Dugan got his own record deal. It was the same thing. I had 2 years of my life with Dugan. He got dropped. And I said, this sucks. As much as it was the coolest thing in the world for me, I didn't have control of my life. And I just, like I said, I have to think that that's the big reason why you guys do what you do, to have some type of say in what you do. It's huge. And you can't put a price on that, Now, some people, like I said, there's been very few artists. Your Paul McCartneys, your John Cougars. There's a few people that have made it longevity, But in any business, what I had to do was adapt. So I thought, you know what, the heck with this. I'm going to go back. His backup band, Melvin's backup band, we stayed together for 10 years as a band, just did our own thing, right? And then when I moved back to Ohio, actually got married, had my first boy, and the life thing was driving me nuts. My wife looked at me and said, you are so homesick, it's pathetic. I thought, I can't move back to Shelby, Ohio. There's nothing here. There's nothing here for music, And I started thinking about it, I thought, I realized how important family is, man. If you're lucky enough to have that, if you got a mom and dad or had a mom and dad, whatever, and it was a good thing, you know what I mean. So we did. We shut down everything, sold the house, packed up everything in a U-Haul, and talk about, having a kid, driving back here, having to start this with nothing. I had no band. I had no work. You can't get work without a band. You can't, I was at an age where that was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. Now I got a family. So, you do whatever you got to do. I got some odd jobs. I started kicking butt. Back then it was Yellow Pages, right? The internet was just starting. So I did all that, and then I had a friend call me who's a dear friend of mine. He said, Kurt, this place needs a guy to come and play acoustic and sing for 4 hours. I said, Eddie, I don't do that. I play drums, man. I've always been in bands. He goes, Kurt, you're an entertainer, man. You can do it. I said, hey, Eddie, I can't do it, man. I'm you know. So I hung up. And what do you mean I can't do that? I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That could be a good thing. So I busted butt and put together enough, you know, that first year of doing that was scared the crap out of me. And I've been playing music all my life. It was something new, a new business venture. It was like something I had never done. And I was all alone up there, and it scared the crap out of me. And then as I started doing it, I thought, oh, this is really fun, man. This is really intimate. It's really, I don't have to worry about the band. I don't have to worry about the guys being able to show up or whether they can do the gig or not. Or, you know, I can make more money because I trimmed the fat down. Now I don't have 3 guys to play. I don't have a big bus. I don't have a big light show. I don't have an agent to pay. All of a sudden, my overhead went, I can make way less money and make more money. So that's my business. That's how I learned business. You know, I learned it on the street, man. And I learned from other people. But so to this day, I've been doing that for 15 years. And thank God I did. Because the internet came along, rap music came along, downloading music came along. People don't buy stuff like this anymore. How many of you buy a CD, man? I mean, very rarely, you know. So artists has changed the game. You know, we used to make money doing this. Not anymore. I'm guilty of it too. If I hear a song, I mean, Spotify, look at all this stuff, you know. So there's a whole new world out there. I mean, you can get on YouTube and get a million hits and probably have a better chance of having a better musical career than doing what I used to do. So I had to reinvent what I was doing, and I thought, you know what, I enjoy performing. So I started, the solo things turned into a great thing. Don't need a band, but anybody can hire one guy. You can go anywhere just about and hire one guy. So I've been doing a lot of that kind of work. I do a lot of, I have a band that plays for kids, preschool to 2nd grade. Things I never thought I would do, and things that were not something that, it's just things I learned from the fly, from learning from different people. But I think the biggest thing for me was, you know, in school, it always blew my mind when, you know, because, you know, you're learning stuff, and then Ben Franklin, that one really hit me in the Declaration of Independence. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I remember hearing that in school thinking, oh, that's really cool. Those guys, those old farts, they were running our country and running the world, and they put the pursuit of happiness in there? In writing, in the Declaration? But it shows you, man, that's important. That's important, man. They came over here. They wanted that. Even back, so that's always existed. People have had a desire to find happiness. Everybody's going to find it their own way. And I just think, you know, mine just happens to be this. I've done so many things. I'm in real estate. I've raised alpacas. I've done a million different things. And I got to tell you, most of them, I had a passion for those too. You know, I just didn't know what the heck I was doing. You know, I'm not a farmer. I'd never had alpacas. I got into them. It's just like the ostrich egg. I was that guy that got into them when guys were making money hand over fist. They'd get this alpaca and they'd sell the cria for 10 grand. I get them. It tanks. They figure out, well, the fleece is the end game, right? What do you do with the fleece? Well, there's no big mills here. You can make fleece cheap. You got to find somebody that can spin it. Costs more to spin a thing of fleece than it did to make a product and sell it. So all of a sudden, these animals went from paying $10,000 for an animal to I literally gave away $20,000 worth of alpacas. And I went to some old guy who was he's like a Grizzly Adams. He does the animals out at Kalahari. They got a little zoo out there. You go to this guy's house, he's got like wolves and boa constrictors. The guy's a trip. He looks like Grizzly Adams. And I went out there before I got rid of him because I said, he had a big pasture. I said, hey, can I bring these out here and board them? I'll come out and work it. I'll take care of it for you. He goes, no, I'm not doing that anymore. He goes, I said, God, what should I do with these animals, man? He said, eat them. I swear to God, without hesitation, and he meant it. He meant it. He goes, oh, that's what Bob's doing down the street, you know. And that's what they do in Peru. I mean, they use every bit of that animal, you know, but I couldn't. They were like dogs to me, you know. I mean, I'm not going to eat these things, you know. And I should have. I would have got something out of them, you know. But so that was a big loss. But, you know, when I look at that and I think, I lost a ton of money on that. But you know what? When I'm on my deathbed, that's one of those things I'm going to think about, man. Those damn alpacas, that one that spit on me. And but I mean, those are the kind of experiences that I've never been afraid to try stuff, man. I mean, just like I said, losing this insurance job. I still sell insurance. I'm doing it on my own now with the company. There's no numbers and no quotas, and I don't work like that. I have to believe in what I'm doing. I'll give it 500% because I just wanted to do it good, you know. And so, I mean, if I had anything to share with you guys, I probably don't. You guys have told me a lot more than I could ever tell you. I mean, it's just everybody, you know, has different visions of where they want to be. David Lee Roth from Van Halen always said, well, money can't buy happiness, but you can pull right up to a yacht and see it. So, I mean, everybody has a different perspective of what is your end game. And, you know, I know with business, there's all kinds of things. You guys showed me a lot. There's a lot of things you got to do. There's things that work, just like writing a song. It's a process. It's not some magical thing. Now, the magic comes out of what you create. But it's a process. It took me a long time to learn that. I said, well, I thought you just did it, you know. And you do. The best ones just come to you. But there's a process, and everybody steals. There's nobody you're going to hear. When I hear a song from anybody, I think, oh, I know where that came from. Oh, I know where that part came from. And I can't stop myself because I hear there's only so many notes. There's only so many chords. There's only so many words. And so it's just how you take those and put them together to make them your own. And it's like your business, same thing. And there's a lot of car dealers. There's a lot of people that do what you, Don. All of you, you know. We have competition. You know, what sets you apart from the competition? I don't even know. I just do what I do. And I try to be good to people, and I try to admit that with them. And you know what? The ones that come around and it works, then it works. There's a lot of people that doesn't work. But I don't burn bridges. I'm a big believer in that. That's been real hard. I've seen it happen a lot with other people. It's tough to get fired. It's tough to have somebody tell you this just isn't good enough, or this, you know. I've done a lot of auditions in my career. I auditioned for this band in Nashville, and I went down for 3 auditions. I thought I had it, and the guy that was the producer produced Stan Fogelberg, the Eagles. I mean, this is Norbert Putman. I'm sitting so he brings me back after I got to know all the guys in the band, and he brings me back after my 3rd audition. I thought, I got it. I've been there 3 times, you know. So I get in with this, sitting in with Norbert Putman, and he's sitting with me heart to heart. And this is like a god, the producer god. My heart's like this, you know. And he said, Kurt, he goes, you did an excellent job. He said, I want to tell you, we brought you down here 3 times because we really thought, you know, you had what we need. He goes, the thing you were doing, he goes, you were playing the snare right on the beat, which I had always done. That's the way we had always recorded. He said, I want that snare to be behind the beat. He said, that's what makes that, when we record, that's what makes it so fat. It allows it to breathe. Less is more sometimes. I said, I could do that. Why didn't you tell me? He was looking for somebody that had been doing that for a long time. I was crushed. I was just literally crushed. But he was an awesome guy. And he told me, he said, Kurt, you know, he goes, if we do a live show, I want you to play live with us, because then we want it on the beat when you're playing live, because we want people excited. It was something I had never heard. That was a minute's worth of advice that took me 20 years to get. So now when I went back into the studio with different things, I knew that. So now I was one of those cats that knew that. It put me at another level. It wasn't anything that the next guy couldn't do or I couldn't have done right then. It was that knowledge. Sometimes those little teeny things, you find that little thing in your business that just maybe nobody else is doing. You know, it might be totally stupid, right? You know, I mean, you see pizza joints, guys going out with gorilla suits standing in the street. You know what I mean? I see, you see what people do with marketing. The best band name I ever saw was Free Beer. And I remember playing in a town and they said, tonight, free beer. And it worked once. You know, everybody packed that place because we were bummed. We were playing down the street. Where's everybody? Oh, they're down for free beer. Well, after people realized, they didn't go back the next night because we were way better than those guys. So we hung in there. But I want to tell you about one other thing. These CDs here. There's a place called the Rainforest Cafe. I lived by the Mega Mall in Minnesota, Mall of America, and they had. Have you ever seen the Rainforest Cafes? They're pretty cool. You go in and it's like you're in a rainforest. They have food and stuff, but they had kiosks. Target used to do them too. And you'd push a button. It had all these CDs, and you push a button, and they had dolphins in the background, and there was music or whatever. So we got signed. A keyboard player friend of mine that I had befriended got signed with this company. And I helped him because I was playing a gig and I met the guy that was a producer for this company. I said, hey, I know a guy that does that kind of music. I said, he's perfect. So I called Marty, said, Marty, I'm going to hook you guys up. Ended up turning into this 5-year venture for us, you know. So Marty got the deal. I did all the percussion. It was just me and him. And we got to go to the Minnesota Zoo and record dolphins. And then so the dolphins are back there, you know. And then it was one of those things where we didn't even perform. That was just a strictly marketing thing. This company put those out there, and people would buy them, you know, just because it had a dolphin on the front. That was a cool marketing thing. Whoa, how cool is that? So all of a sudden, Target says, well, wait a minute. Why should we be paying this record company to do this? Target started doing it. So Target had kiosks. They called it something else, dolphin, you know, dolphin whatever. And but they weren't as good. We were real musicians, and it was good music, where they were just kind of doing canned stuff and just putting bird sounds behind the stuff, you know, where we really tried to make it like, you know, real earthy, you know. That was one of the coolest things I ever did. What's cool about all this stuff for me is when I'm gone, there I am. That's a big part of my life right there, man. And it was kind of cool because it's recorded, and a lot of what I went through in my life is there. The songs I wrote, the places I went, you know, a lot of the things I did. That's the beauty of music to me. But the coolest thing about it is all the people I met, man, and the relationships I've got, and the friends I've made, the experience, what I've learned from. And some of my favorite people have nothing to do with music. That's another thing. This doesn't follow me around everywhere. I mean, I love so many other things in life. To be honest with you, I hardly listen to music. I need quiet. I need downtime. So to me, nothingness is incredible for me. Just to observe, just to think. That's what nature's cool about and all that stuff. But sometimes we need that downtime, and that's that balance. That's that thing that's so hard to do when you're driven. You got to get somewhere. You got to pay the bills. You got to do all this. You got to do all that. That's why these tiny houses are becoming big. People are just saying, you know, enough. Where's it end? What's the end game? You know, my friends that got out of high school back when GM and Ford were huge, you had two choices back where I came from. If you had a dad or uncle or somebody that worked at GM, got in GM, you were set, buddy. You got out, you know, my buddy B. Baker, man, he retired when he's 50 years old, set. He paid a price, though. He didn't really like his job, you know. He spent his young years in a factory doing some things. Now, I'm not saying some people it works, man, in more power. He's got something I don't, security. So B sacrificed part of his life as a young man to have an end game that worked for him. Thank God he's got his health and alive, right? I, on the other hand, sacrificed security, spending the majority of my life doing what I wanted to do, right? I have a house. I eat good. I probably live better than 90% of the world. There's a song by Kenny Chesney that kind of sums it up for me. I don't even know it. Somebody played it for me the other day. He's down in this village, and here's this Mexican guy comes up. This poor guy, no teeth, you know, just smiling. He's a fisherman, and I don't know if you guys know the song, but Kenny Chesney, the guy cleaned Kenny's fish and gave it to Kenny because Kenny had been out fishing with him. and I hear a true story. So Kenny Chesney gives this guy, God knows, probably $6,000 or something. The guy says, no, I can't take this. He says, no, you don't, Kenny Chesney says, you don't understand. I do very well where I come from. I want you to have this. And the guy looked at him and he goes, you don't understand. He goes, I do very well. I go out fishing. I come back. I go to the bar, play the guitar. I talk with my friends and laugh. I go home and kiss my wife, play with the kids, wake up and do it all over again. He goes, I don't need your money. And I've seen that if you've ever been to third world countries or been places, whenever I go to places, that I really try to get down amongst the people. And in Mexico, I befriended some musicians down there and used to go down there a lot. My one friend who used to go down with me lives in Cozumel. He's been down there 15 years. It's a whole different perspective, you know. These people, there was a guy selling conch shells. He was out in the ocean. Me and my wife and kids pulled up, and there he was, and he came walking up to us. And guy's in good shape. That's the thing, these guys work, man. They're skinny, they're happy, and he's probably broke, probably has 2 cents in his pocket. So he's cleaning a conch shell. I said, hey, just fascinated by what you're doing. He says, he turned around, he looked at the ocean, he goes, yeah, this is my bank. And he meant it. You know, he had a big old pile of conch shells there. And I'm looking at that guy and I think, this guy doesn't have a stress in the world. You know, he's in good shape. He's happy. He's smiling. And I'm thinking, I just spent $2,000 to come see that. And I always battle with that. It's so important to me that what that guy had. Now, bottom line is, can I go that far? No. And like I said, I've got all the stuff. I've got a house. I've got mortgages. I've got, I've bought into society. But there's a part of me that really buys into that too. So personally, I'm trying to get back to that balance. My kids, my youngest is going to college. My oldest is getting out of college. I'm at a place in my life. I'm going through a divorce. I have nothing to hide. I had a great marriage and made 2 great kids, man. The best thing, like I said, I've ever done in my life. They're going to contribute to society. They're smart young men. They love people. They're good-hearted. So I've done that. And I will continue to do that. But I'm at a place in my life, I'm thinking, I could do whatever I want again. I'm looking at all this stuff going, I might go to Florida and play for 3 months in the winter. Why not? And it's so weird because there's a part of you has somebody over here. You're not allowed to do that. Can't do that. Not supposed to do that. You got to do this. Got to do this. Got to do this. Because that's been driven into me from society. You hear it all the time. I can't tell you, if it wasn't for the support of my family, I can't tell you how many people, if you walk into I walk into a bank, but I'm just saying, as a musician, you're a musician, what do you really do? What's your real job? That is my job. And there's certain, and it used to hurt me bad, I work really hard. Why can't I get some type of respect for what I do from that part of the world, the part that has to buy houses, the part that has, that other part. I always get respect from people that I make happy or that make me happy, Music never lets you down. Music never lets you down. The music. It's all the other stuff you got to do to get to there, I studied with the master drummer from Ghana, Africa. When I was in Minnesota, I lost my voice. We were on the road, lost my voice, and it scared me to death. I thought I had nodes and was never going to sing again. I went to this music therapist, and he told me to shut up. He said, I don't want you to open your mouth. He said, no, I mean it. I had to walk around with one of those things you flip up. And literally, for a month, he said, you'll never talk again if you don't shut up. And then he taught me so much about, he wasn't even a singer. He coached vocal therapists. But he taught me about life. What do you eat? What do you do when you go to football games? What do you do when you, how much water do you drink? He got into the body. Like not just how you sing, but which again, some of these lessons Apply to everything, though. It doesn't matter all the stuff you do. If you get stressed out and your health goes, well, it doesn't matter how much money you make or what you do, right? And then I met a master drummer there from Ghana, this guy. So I walked in, and he had a conga drum. And he said, I want you to forget everything you've learned about Western culture. He said, my father and my grandfather were probably the last ones to come out of the jungle that were master drummers that actually talked. You hear the talking drum thing, right? It really was a talking drum thing. So when I went into him, I was thinking, I want to learn all these African things, right? It wasn't about that. The drum was about life. Over there, a doctor's like a physicist. A drummer. If you're a master drummer in Ghana, you walk into a bank, you're a physicist. You're making good. You're good in society. So it's a whole totally different thing over there. But every rhythm, everything they played, he wouldn't just show me the rhythm, he would tell me what it was about. When we play this rhythm, this is when somebody in the tribe died. When they hear that in the jungle, they know that something's happened. It brings people together. When the harvest comes in, we play this. When somebody's married, we play this. Everything was related to life. That's how, and drums really is where music, a lot of the stuff came from Africa. Rhythm, it starts way down, that's where that history is. So to hear that it just didn't come as, they weren't just writing pop songs, you know what I mean? The music was like part of their life. It's ingrained in their society, in their culture for thousands of years. And that was eye-opening to me. It's just, and back in the day when the United States was young, when you made good corn, you bartered. I always loved that kind of thing where, it's not so much about the money, but I've got something you guys really need, man. We've got something you really need. Let's work something out. I'm a big believer in that. I just think that's a really cool thing. I need to shut up. I could go on for hours. So anybody have anything they want to say or questions? Or I know music's not, this isn't going to help you guys business-wise because you guys help me. You guys, all the things you do help me in the business end of it. But if you have anything you want to pipe in or ask, go ahead, man. Well, I'm going to play a song. Thought you guys could help me. Do we have time for that? Nobody has any questions or anything? Make this easy on you. Okay, Nate, you were late, so you get to play tambourine. There's one up there. There's a guitar up there. Okay, you got to get off the phone. You guys can pass them around if you get bored. Now, funny thing is, I really said I've studied drums. I play guitar and piano and all that. So when I do my solo, I play guitar, piano, and sing. But I always wrote music on the guitar. But when I went to do a solo thing, you can't play drums. I mean, you can only do a drum solo for so long. So I thought I got to sing songs, So this is something I've just kind of evolved. Little tune, but we're going to go for it. What I do when I perform, like I said, I don't just get up there and play because there's people there. I really look at a crowd, and I really try to communicate and find out where you guys coming from, man. Where you from, man? Who came the furthest? Because once you get people involved, and that's just like any business, once you get them involved and you put it on them, your job's done. Because people like interaction. People like to know that they're part of the conversation. They're part of what you're doing. They're part of your business. But when I was, I had a friend of mine that was in the service, and he ended up getting out, played bass for a band I was in. So we bought a pickup truck, had 3 gas tanks. And you could get to the end of one, you'd flip it and keep going, right? So as long as you had an empty milk jug, you could go across the United States, And we broke down in Eric, Oklahoma. Anybody ever been to Oklahoma? Anybody ever heard of it? It's got 2 O's just like Ohio. But so here we are. Bought a $500 pickup truck with 3 gas tanks, and it broke down in Eric, Oklahoma. And about as many people as are in right here, right? So these little old ladies had this old coffee shop, man. They took us in all night and said, Bob will fix your truck. And they started to tell us, you look like musicians. We had long hair, you know. I said, well, I've got to tell you a story. And they told us about a guy that grew up there. He was a little hellion. I said, God, this guy got in so much trouble. Said he grew up to make something of himself. He's got his name on the outside of the town. I don't know if you know, oh, we didn't see the sign when you come in, you know. So they're real proud of this guy. And they went on and on and on. So you guys try to figure out who that is. I'm going to play a song. Got to get the rockets going up. Trailers for sale and loose and latch just 50 cents. No cell phone, no pool, no pets. I ain't got no cigarettes. I got 2 hours of pushing broom. If I 12 the revolving room, and I'm a man of means by no means. I know every engineer on every train, all the little children and all of their names. Every airline in every town, every lot that ain't locked when no one's around. 3rd boxcar midnight train, destination Bangor, Maine. Old worn out suit and shoes, I don't pay no union dues. I got old stories I have found, shoveling out to big around. And I'm a man of means by no means, king of the road. I know every engineer on every train, all the little children and all of their names. Every airline in every town, every lock that ain't locked when no one's around. Trailers set a rent, roofs to latch just 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. Anybody here smoke cigarettes? I got 2 hours of pushing broom. If I 12 the fall in the room, and I'm a man on means by no means, a king of the road. 'Cause I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man by no means, a king of the road. 'Cause I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, a king of the road. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, man.